The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and horrors alike. But few beings were as feared as the Critheri, a species of towering, serpent-like aliens with shimmering scales and glowing eyes. They were known for their strength, their ferocity, and their ability to survive in the harshest environments. But they were also known for something else: their curse. According to legend, the Critheri were cursed by an ancient god, their touch said to bring death and destruction. It was a superstition, of course, but one that had persisted for centuries. And so, the Critheri were shunned, feared, and hated by nearly every species in the galaxy. All except one. Captain Eli Grayson was a man of science, not superstition. As a human explorer serving in the Galactic Federation, he had seen his share of strange and terrifying things. But when his ship, the Starfire, received a distress signal from a Critheri vessel, he didn't hesitate to respond. "Are you insane?" his first officer, Lieutenant Mara, asked as they approached the derelict ship. "The Critheri are dangerous. We should leave them to their fate." Eli shook his head. "They're living beings, Mara. We can't just abandon them." When they boarded the Critheri ship, they found it in ruins. The crew was dead, their bodies twisted and broken. But in the heart of the ship, they found her. She was curled up in a corner, her scales dull and her eyes dim. She looked up as Eli approached, her voice a weak hiss. "Stay back," she warned. "I am cursed." Eli knelt down, his expression calm. "I don't believe in curses. What's your name?" The Critheri hesitated, her glowing eyes narrowing. "I am Zara," she said finally. "Well, Zara," Eli said, holding out a hand. "Let's get you out of here." Zara was hesitant at first. She had spent her entire life being shunned and feared, her very existence seen as a threat. But there was something about Eli, his calm demeanor, his steady voice, that made her trust him. When she finally took his hand, she expected him to recoil, to scream, to die. But he didn't. He simply smiled and helped her to her feet. "See," he said. "No curse." Zara stared at him, her mind reeling. For the first time in her life, someone had touched her without fear. Back on the Starfire, Zara was treated with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. The crew kept their distance, their eyes filled with fear. But Eli refused to let her be treated like a monster. "She's not cursed," he said firmly. "She's a living being just like us." Despite his words, the crew remained wary. But Eli didn't care. He spent hours talking to Zara, learning about her culture, her history, and her struggles. "Why do you stay with me?" Zara asked one evening, her voice filled with confusion. "You are the only one who does not fear me." Eli smiled faintly. "Because I see you for who you are, not what others say you are." Zara's eyes softened, a flicker of gratitude shining in their glow. As the days passed, Zara began to open up. She told Eli about the Critheri's history, about the ancient war that had led to their curse. She spoke of her people's struggles, their isolation, and their longing for acceptance. Eli listened, his heart aching for her. He knew what it was like to be an outsider, to be judged for something beyond your control. "You're not alone anymore," he said one evening, his voice filled with determination. "I'll make sure of that." The turning point came when the Starfire was attacked by a group of Zorith raiders. The ship's defenses were overwhelmed, and the crew was forced to evacuate. Eli and Zara were in the engine room when the attack began. The lights flickered, and the ship shuddered as the Zoritha's weapons struck the hull. "We need to get to the escape pods," Eli said, his voice urgent. Zara shook her head. "The engines are damaged. If we don't stabilize them, the ship will be destroyed." Eli hesitated, then nodded. What do you need me to do? Zara's eyes glowed with determination. Follow my lead. Working together, Eli and Zara managed to stabilize the engines just as the Zorith breached the ship. The raiders stormed the engine room, their weapons blazing. Eli fought with everything he had, but he was outnumbered. Just as a Zorith soldier raised his weapon to strike, Zara stepped in. Her scales shimmered as she moved, her body coiling around the soldier with lightning speed. She disarmed him with ease, her strength and agility overwhelming. The other raiders hesitated, their fear of the Critheri evident. Leave, Zara hissed, her voice filled with menace. Or face the consequences. The raiders fled, their retreat hurried and chaotic. When the battle was over, Eli looked at Zara with a mixture of awe and gratitude. You saved us, he said, his voice filled with admiration. Zara's eyes softened. You saved me first. In the days that followed, the crew's attitude toward Zara began to change. They had seen her bravery, her strength, and her loyalty. And slowly but surely, they began to see her as one of their own. When the Starfire returned to Earth, Zara was welcomed as a hero. The Critheri, once feared and shunned, were now seen in a new light. And it was all thanks to one man who had the courage to touch her. As Eli and Zara stood together, watching the sun set over Earth, Zara felt a sense of peace she had never known. Thank you, she said softly. Eli smiled. For what? For seeing me, Zara said, her voice filled with emotion. For showing me that I am more than a curse. Eli's heart swelled with warmth. You've always been more than a curse, Zara. And now the galaxy knows it too.